Okay, so chapter 13, right? So in chapter 12, we had a glimpse of what life in Birmingham looks like for the Watson family. We saw that Kenny is really hot. Byron's actually having a decent time. He's hanging out with Mr. Robert. They're gonna go fishing. So he's really not having an awful time like we predicted he would. Okay, so let's keep reading. We're in chapter 13 and it's titled Meet Winnie's evil twin brother, the Woolpoo. If y'all are going to the water, you stay away from Collier's Landing. A couple of years ago, Miss Thomas' little boy Jimmy got caught up in some kind of whirlpool there, and they didn't find the poor soul's body for 3 days. I'd only halfway listened to what Grandma Sands had said, and now me and Joy and Byron were standing at a sign with arrows that pointed in 2 directions. The one pointing to the left said public swimming, and the other one pointing to the right looked like it had been on the post for a million years. Wink, wink. That's a figurative language, right? What is it? Hyperbole. But if you got close to it, you could read, warning, no trespassing, no swimming, no public entree. Signed, Joe Collier. Oh man, Collier's Landing, I said. Let's go. I knew Joy would not like this, but I figured me and Bi could talk her into coming and not snitching. Joy said, Kenny, you heard Grandma Sands tell about the little boy getting lost in the water? What was the thing called that she said they got him? Daddy Cool said, didn't you hear what she said, Joy? She said he got caught by the Woolpoo. Is that a fish? Joy asked. You know who Winnie the Pooh is, don't you? Me and Joy both nodded. Well, the Woolpoo is Winnie's evil twin brother. Don't no one ever write about him because they don't want him to scare y'all kids. What he does is hide underwater and snatch stupid kids down with him. But I figured that dumb story was enough to scare me off, and he started walking in the direction of the public swimming. If Kenny wants to take his stupid little behind out there and get snatched, let him. Bi grabbed Joy's hand and started pulling her along with him, but she skidded her feet in the dirt. But, Byron, what if the Woolpoo comes down to where we're going? Can he swim down there and get people too? Now, Joy, the Woolpoo don't come on public beaches. He just grabs folks that are too stingy to let peons come on their land, like this Collier guy. Who could understand Byron? Here was a chance for another fantastic adventure, and he was going in the wrong direction. Something was wrong with him. If he was in Flint and you told him not to do something, he would go right out and do it. But now, he was acting real dull and square. Maybe it was the heat. Maybe just like he had sucked all the energy out of me, he had sucked all the meanness and fun out of Byron. What you gonna do, punk? Byron shouted over his shoulder. Joy yelled, come on, Kenny, you know what Grandma Sands said. I couldn't believe it. I really wanted to go see where some kid drowned. And now Bi was choosing this time to listen to what a grown-up told him. Oh man, I'm going to Collier's Landing. Byron shrugged. Have fun. And I shouted, what's wrong with you? When are you going to start acting like you normally do? What will Bubhead say if you saw you acting like that? Byron flipped me double middle fingers and another finger sign that I'd never seen before and said, just keep your stupid little butt out of the water. Forget you, I'm going. And they kept walking. I'm not playing. Joy waved. I'm going to Collier's Landing. They were gone. I looked in the direction that the warning sign was pointing and started to get a little nervous. I turned and started to follow Joy and Byron, but finally I decided I really was going to go to Collier's Landing. Maybe Byron was getting sick of having more fantastic adventures, but I figured I was getting old enough to have some myself. "A couple giant squares," I shouted, and then walked off the way the warning sign pointed. Byron must have thought that I was stupid. Who ever heard of something called a whirlpool? I was not sure what the lie was, but I knew Byron had made that junk up. Besides, if Winnie the Pooh had an evil twin brother, it seemed like I would have read about him somewhere. Some of the time, it was kind of hard to understand what Grandma Sands was saying, but I could not remember her saying anything about any whirlpool. If that really was something that snatched kids into the water, Mom and Dad would not have let us come down here, would they? I knew all that stuff because I was still kind of nervous when I followed the little trail that went through a bunch of bushes and led to the water. I forgot all about Byron's lies as soon as I saw the water. Collier's Landing was great. The water was dark blue, and best of all, it was about 100 degrees cooler. Joe Collier had put another sign up on a giant tree. "Warning! Danger! No swimming! 6 lives been lost here. Bad drop off. Signed, Joe Collier." 6? Grandma Sands had said 1 little boy drowned here, not 6. I felt dumb, but I looked real hard at the water to see if the whirlpool was hiding there. And I even looked up and down the shore to see if there were any strange footprints on the ground. I was kind of worried because this sign looked a lot fresher than the first one. I kept waiting for Bud to jump out of the bushes and say something like, "Aha, you little dope, I got you. I made you look for a whirlpool." But everything was real calm and quiet. The water did not even look like it was moving, but like it was breathing, going up and down, and it made a sound like the wind blowing through the big trees in Flint. Once again, that's another example, right, of figurative language. That's another personification. The water is breathing, just like you were a person, okay? And it's also simile, because it's comparing the water to a breathing person. I walked right to the edge of the water and still did not see anything strange. So I figured if there really was anything dangerous, Byron would have followed me here and stopped me from getting hurt, wouldn't he? Then a bell went off in my head. I knew Joe Collier put that sign up because he did not want to share his lake with anyone. The whirlpool was some made-up garbage. So this is a good point to make a prediction. What do you guys think Kenny is going to do? Is he going to jump in the water? Is he going to stay out of the water? And if he does jump in the water, what's going to happen to him? Is the whirlpool real? Did Byron lie to him like he did with the people in Flint that's supposed to put in garbage trucks? Okay, so this is a big pivotal point of the book, or the chapter at least, because what Kenny decides to do is going to have a big impact on the rest of this chapter, and it's going to show us a side of Byron that we haven't seen yet. Ready? Let's go. There's one good thing about getting in trouble. It seems like you do it in steps. It seems like that you don't just end up in trouble, but that you kind of ease yourself into it. It almost seems like the worse the trouble is that you get into, the more steps it takes to get there. Sort of like you're getting a bunch of little warnings on the way. Sort of like if you really wanted to, you could turn around. The first warning I should have listened to was when Daddy Cool and Joy followed the arrow to the left and I went to the right. The second warning came when I decided to wade in the water and the knots would not come out of my tennis shoe laces, and I had to pull and tug the shoes off with the laces still tied. After that, it's kind of hard to count how many warnings I got, because with the trouble I ended up in, I must have had a zillion of them. hyperbole, right? And also a little bit of foreshadowing. He's telling us that he will get in trouble. Step by step, I kept easing into trouble until I finally was standing in the lake with the water up to my knees. And I got out into the water because there were a bunch of little stupid looking, slow moving fish right near the shore. And I thought that I might be able to catch some of them and make them pets. I was not afraid because I figured if there was a real whirlpool and he was in the area, this little fish would not be hanging around. Alabama fish were a lot friendlier and a lot trickier than Michigan ones. I bent over and stuck my hand in the water and tried to grab a couple, but they kept slipping away like they were covered with soap. They were right there and I could not grab them. They did not even act like they were afraid of me. They just kept swimming around my legs, even bumping their faces into me, like they were trying to kiss me. It seemed like they wanted me to catch them and take them back to Flint. After missing about 100 times, I stood up and saw the reason the fish would not go out in deeper water. There was a big green turtle about the size of a football, cruising back and forth in the deep water, and he looked just as slow and stupid as the fish did. Wow, who want to have a fish for a pet when you could have a turtle? I took a few more steps out and the cool blue water came all the way up to my arms. Getting cool all of a sudden like this made me bug my eyes and suck in my breath. I made a quick grab at the stupid little turtle and zoom, he flapped his arms once and disappeared into deeper water. That quick grab was my last step. Boom! All of a sudden, I was in big trouble. The rocky ground under my feet started sliding away from the shore. I did not get nervous because I knew that I could flap my arms like the turtle and get back to the dirt. I looked up and saw the shore was real close still. I flapped my arms and nothing happened. I stayed in the same spot. Then the rocks under my feet were gone and I was kicking in water. With the tips of my toes, I could still brush some of the rocks, but they were all slipping and sliding away from shore. I pushed away and tried to swim back, and my head bobbed under the water. All the sound and light from Alabama disappeared because my eyes automatically shut, and it seemed like my ears were stuffed with cotton. That's another simile. I got a mouthful of water, but my head came right back up. I laughed because I was spitting and patooing a mile a minute when my head popped out of the water. But the laughing stopped real quick when I tried swimming again and my head went back under. So what's happening? He got in the water, right? And he ended up in the middle of a whirlpool. If you don't know what a whirlpool looks like, look it up on YouTube. But it's a strong current of water that will suck you in, and from which it's very hard to get out of, even if you're a good swimmer, because the pressure of the water is very strong. So the harder it swims, really the quicker it sinks. In this case, he cannot swim his way out of the whirlpool. And that's when I got really scared. I've seen enough cartoons to know that when your head goes down 3 times, it doesn't ever come up again. I knew if I went down one more time, I was as dead as a donut. That's a simile, but also that's right, alliteration. Dead as a donut. My eyes looked at the shore where my shoes were sitting safe on some rocks. Oh man, I said to myself, I wish I had a magic lamp so I could have the genie make me be where those shoes are, and that could be where I am. That was the last thing that I thought about before I found out that Grandma Saints and Byron and Joe Collier were not lying at all. That was the last thing that I thought about before I found out that the Whoop-Poo was real and big and mean and horrible, and that he did not care at all about dragging kids out into the water. I'd never ever been this scared in my life. I hollered out, "Mama!" My arms were punching the water like it was a person, and my legs were going a mile a minute to try to get back to the shore. But now even my toes could not find anything to touch. "Okay, Kenny," I said to myself, "you know, you're going to be all right. Just get real calm and swim back to the lane. When you count to 3, just go back to your shoes." I stopped kicking for a second and said, 1, 2, 3, and then I gave my arms one more flap to go back to shore, and down I went again. My head went under for the 3rd time, and I knew that I would never come back up again. Going down there 3 times like this is just like waking up and finding yourself tied to a tree with someone saying, "Ready, aim, fire." And that's when he came swimming real slow out of the deep. And even though my head was underneath the dark water, I could see him come right at me. He did not look like he was related to Winnie the Pooh at all. He was big and gray with hard, square-looking fingers. Where he should have had a face, there was nothing but dark gray. Where he should have had eyes, there was nothing but a darker, colder-looking collar. He grabbed my leg and started pulling me down. I kicked and scratched at him, but he was just too strong. It seemed like he did not even feel my punches. Who is it talking about? What kind of figure monster is Kenny struggling with? That's the question that we have to keep in mind. My head felt like it was going to explode. I did not think I could hold my breath for another second. I was feeling real scared and dizzy from holding my breath this long. Then suddenly, I could see that there was someone else in the water, and the Whoop-Poo was pulling me right towards them. It was a little girl, and she had on a real pretty blue dress and big yellow wings, and something tied around her head. When the Whoop-Poo pulled me closer, I could see that he was a little angel. And wait a minute. It was Joetta, looking just like the angel that Mrs. Davidson had given her. Joy had wings and a halo. Her face was real calm too. But she was pointing straight up like there was something important that I should look at. This angel that looked just like Joy was telling me I had to swim up one more time. This really scared me. I knew it was not a good sign when you start seeing angels. Yeah, no kidding. So I kicked and flapped my arms and started going towards the sky. My head came up and I spit out a belly full of water and took a couple of good deep breaths. Mama, help me. But the Whoop-Poo was not through with me. I felt his hard hand go around my ankle, and I went down for the 4th time. I got pulled a little further and saw someone else in the water with me, kicking up a ton of dirt and scratching up the water like they were crazy. Byron. Man, the Whoop-Poo is going to let me see all my family one more time before I go. This is what Kenny's thinking. Byron tried grabbing at me, but the Whoop-Poo was pulling me away too fast. I saw Byron's legs swim back up towards the sky. Push, stop. Push, stop. Onomatopoeia. Up ahead, someone else was in the water. It has to be Mom and Dad. Goodbye, Mama. Goodbye, Dad. No, it's bye again. Still looking all crazy, still scratching the water. Byron and the Whoop-Poo started digging it out. Bye must have hit it 100 times in that place where its face should have been. Finally, the Whoop-Poo could not take anymore, and I felt those hard, cold fingers come off my ankle. The Whoop-Poo swam back into the deep water. The last thing I noticed about him was that he had big, square toes. Byron grabbed me and put his arm around my neck, and it felt like he was trying to choke me. As soon as he got me on the shore and turned me upside down, I felt like I was gonna die. I started throwing up a ton of water and food. If there was a forest fire somewhere, all they would have to do is hold me over it and I would have put it out. I threw up and coughed and choked and vomited about 1,000,000 times. And all this just because I breathed in some air. Bai held my ankles and kept backing me up and down and screaming at me. When the sound from the water in my ears and the sound of me vomiting my guts out and the whoosh sound from the whirlpool finally left me, I could hear Byron shouting, "Oh man, oh man, oh!" over and over. Finally I yelled, "Stop! Put me down!" Byron dropped me on the ground, right on top of all the water and junk that was thrown up. I knew he was going to make a stupid joke about me landing face first and all that mess, but he didn't. He just wrapped his arms around my shoulders real tight and put his mouth right on top of my head. Byron was shaking like he was getting electrocuted and crying like a baby and kissing the top of my head over and over. This was real disgusting. He just kept saying, "Kenny, Kenny, Kenny," a bunch of times with his mouth wide open on top of my head. I could feel his teeth grinding into my skull, but Bai didn't care. And I said, "Oh man," and tried to make him quit, but all I could do was sit there, too tired to do anything but let Daddy Cool nibble on the top of my head while he cried like a kindergarten baby. So that's a lot of action in this chapter, right? Kenny almost dies. He drowns in the water, and if it wasn't for Byron rescuing him, he would have most likely died. Now, there's an element of mystery in this chapter, right? Because Kenny is convinced that he sees someone in the water, a monster, and that monster is the whirlpool, right? Which he thinks, that's what he thinks he heard from Grandma Sands when she was talking about whirlpool, which is like we discussed, something real that happens in the water when two currents clash. But he's convinced that there's a monster pulling him down. And we never get a clarification on that. Is he making it up? Is he saying things because he's being delusional? Or is there something supernatural actually in the water with him? We can only make assumptions. What do you guys think? Do you think that the whirlpool is real, or is he just making it up in his head because he's so scared that he's gonna die? So keep those questions in mind, because those are important questions. And also, what about Byron? Are you surprised by how Byron reacted and acted? You know, this big tough guy that never cries, never shows emotions. He's scared. He was very scared because, you know, he thought that his brother was gonna die. And if you guys have siblings, especially younger siblings, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You love your brothers, your sisters, and when they're in danger, you feel, right? You feel frightened for them, and that's exactly what Byron felt like. He was truly afraid that his brother was gonna die. So his reaction is very natural, but it also shows us another side, right, of Byron. Kind of like when he killed by accident the dove, right, the bird. He cried and made a makeshift tomb or grave for the bird. That was also unexpected, and this is also unexpected because it does not really square up with the image of Byron that we're used to seeing, you know. So again, Byron is a very dynamic character. He changes throughout the book, and he keeps doing things that we don't expect him to do. And in the next few chapters, you'll see more of that. Okay, so tune in for the next chapter. Thank you.